As the debate continues on the dual citizenship of local politicians, a former Prime Minister has weighed in on the controversial matter.
As you'll hear in this report, PJ Patterson believes Section 40 of the Constitution should be amended to include other public servants.
Ramardo Lyons explains why.
PJ Patterson is the sixth and the longest-serving Prime Minister of Jamaica. After 14 years, he stepped down in 2006.
What I did before departure is to change the oath being taken by Prime Ministers.
A change he says was necessary because it was uncomfortable to swear allegiance to a foreign monarch, which takes us to the issue of dual citizenship. While staying clear of the current debate over whether the opposition leader should renounce his British citizenship, Mr. Patterson would only say this:
no valid reason exists for maintaining the provisions pertaining to a Commonwealth citizen other than a citizen of Jamaica who is resident for at least 12 months to be eligible for parliamentary office. The qualifications must be based, in my view, on Jamaican citizenship. I don't want to cause any confusion. Citizens of the Commonwealth are at the present time legally entitled to sit in the House or the Senate. I am deliberately confining my remarks to the constitutionality of any such position. Political considerations are well above my grade in the pavilion.
During his tenure as Prime Minister, he says the issue of dual citizenship also arose. He gave the example of two appointments he had to make. But after it was disclosed they had dual citizenship, this is what he told them.
If you want to accept this position, because of its sensitivity, you have to renounce. Both, without hesitation, proceeded to renounce and were duly appointed to their positions.
Mr. Patterson is, however, of the view that Section 40 of the Constitution should not be confined to parliamentarians.
For example, the Chief of Staff. Otherwise, you're exposing the person to charges of treason. The Permanent Secretary and members of the Defense Board. I raise, without making any proposal, we have to look at questions of persons like the Chief Justice, like the President of the Court of Appeal, like our electoral commissioners.
So more pointedly to my question then, that in relation to your opposition counterpart, that you're saying that his position would be untenable.
I think anyone in that position would be untenable. And not just that, I think it would be incurable. In other words, having gone ahead to say, I want to lead the country ultimately, and not having taken that step before, you can't cure it afterwards, because already the question is, then why didn't you do this before? Why did you carry us along and not declare this to us?
On the back of you mentioning,
so it's not just untenable, it's incurable.
Well, the leader of the opposition is here. Mark Golding joins us this morning to clear the air about this.
I do have British citizenship as well. A Jamaican passport. As a child, I also had a British passport and so on, but I don't intend to maintain that passport. I do have British citizenship as well.
When Jamaica is moving out of the King's Yard, we cannot have 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the yard. We will not support a phased approach to dealing with the matter of full decolonization, because the phased approach does not guarantee its attainment. It may never happen if we do it that way. I have said, this matter will govern generations to come. and we must allow and follow our conscience and do what we believe to be right.
I do have British citizenship as well. Jamaica will not accept a cover-up of this shameful debacle which has tainted our country's reputation as a safe and well-regulated place for Jamaicans at home and abroad to save and invest. We must translate good governance principles into tangible action that restores trust and confidence in our leaders and preserves our cherished freedoms and democratic way of life. Change means no more hiding of the truth from Jamaicans. I do have British citizenship as well. Change means no more deception in official public communication. I do have British citizenship as well. Change means putting transparency and communication at the heart of good governance. It affirms that respect is due to those who elect governments and pay taxes. I do have British citizenship as well. I tabled an impeachment bill in the House of Representatives in 2021 to provide a mechanism to hold to account any parliamentarian whose egregious conduct brings his or her office into disrepute. I do have British citizenship as well.
I'm suggesting that you are pathologically mendacious.
Tonight, that is an improper suggestion.
Why?
And an improper
After he just said what he just said?
Yes.
It's pathological. You have a pathological condition when it comes to telling the truth. And I'm suggesting to you that you have misled, you have conspired, and you have deceived the parliament, the people of this country, the diaspora and every Jamaican, and that you should pack your bags and go.
All I can say, if I were in your position, I do have British citizenship as well. Take with myself and hand over to someone else who is not compromised. I do have British citizenship as well.
I would like to say to the Jamaican people, so I speak to you today as Prime Minister of the country, not as leader of a political party seeking power, but as someone who is genuinely interested in the advance of our country. And so I want to assure Jamaicans that the process continues. We are in a certain season described by others as silly. I tend to sometimes agree. But we will get over it, and Jamaica will evolve into its rightful form, constitutionally, governance, in terms of our economic independence and socially. The journey continues.
I do have British citizenship as well. I do have British citizenship as well.
But wear the shoe on the other foot.
Mm-hmm.
If this were the Prime Minister who was in this situation, how do you think you would view it?
But take with myself and hand over to someone else who is not compromised. I don't know. I'm not in. I don't want to speculate on that.
But would you be able to understand the concerns?
I believe in the rule of law.
Yeah.
But take with myself and hand over to someone else who is not compromised. Oh, this is something I'm going to pray on, and I'm going to continue to reflect on. But from my standpoint. But take with myself and hand over to someone else who is not compromised. There's been no public debate about it. I get a lot of people telling me, don't give it up. A lot of members of the public saying, don't succumb to this kind of pressure, which is politically motivated. I do have British citizenship as well. But take with myself and hand over to someone else who is not compromised.
Others advising you to give it up?
Well, I would say a few people, like people in the papers and so on, the commentators and what have you. And I said, I'm going to continue, because it's, to me, the passport is really the only issue. I do have British citizenship as well. Take with myself and hand over to someone else who is not compromised. I got a passport when I was a little child. My dad arranged that. And, over the years, I've continued to have it. But I don't use it now. And for me, it was a travel document that was convenient. I'm quite willing to give it up because I haven't been using it, as I've said, for many years now. And this whole question of renouncing, that status is something I've never considered before. I don't intend to maintain that passport. I do have British citizenship as well, because I feel in the position I have, it was a convenient travel document in the past, but I think I can't be holding this position and maintaining that. So I'm
But take for myself and hand over to someone else who is not compromised.
And I'm going to think about it. But my initial position on it is I think it's an unreasonable request, given the current constitution that we have. It's something that I'm prepared to consider going forward. And whatever, certainly, if we go through the constitutional reform process and the people of Jamaica decide, ironic in a way, because I was the one advocated that we should expand who can be in Parliament to not just Commonwealth citizens, but all Jamaican citizens, regardless, including U.S. People of dual U.S. nationality or other countries. And that's what kind of triggered some of this current furor. But if that's the way, ultimately, the new constitution that we have, if that's what it says, I will comply.
PJ Patterson is the 6th and the longest-serving Prime Minister of Jamaica. After 14 years, he stepped down in 2006.
What I did before departure is to change the oath being taken by prime ministers.
A change he says was necessary because it was uncomfortable to swear allegiance to a foreign monarch, which takes us to the issue of dual citizenship. While staying clear of the current debate over whether the opposition leader should renounce his British citizenship, Mr. Patterson would only say this:
no valid reason exists for maintaining the provisions pertaining to a Commonwealth citizen other than a citizen of Jamaica who is resident for at least 12 months to be eligible for parliamentary office. The qualifications must be based, in my view, on Jamaican citizenship. I don't want to cause any confusion. Citizens of the Commonwealth are at the present time legally entitled to sit in the House or the Senate. I am deliberately confining my remarks to the constitutionality of any such position. Political considerations are well above my grade in the pavilion.
During his tenure as Prime Minister, he says the issue of dual citizenship also arose. He gave the example of 2 appointments he had to make. But after it was disclosed they had dual citizenship, this is what he told them.
If you want to accept this position, because of its sensitivity, you have to renounce. Both, without hesitation, proceeded to renounce and were duly appointed to their positions.
Mr. Patterson is, however, of the view that Section 40 of the Constitution should not be confined to parliamentarians.
For example, the Chief of Staff. Otherwise, you're exposing the person to charges of treason. The Permanent Secretary and members of the Defense Board. I raise, without making any proposal, we have to look at questions of persons like the Chief Justice, like the President of the Court of Appeal, like our electoral commissioners.
It is only a matter of time before the general has to be called and the PNP will be returned to power under the government of Lord Jefferson Golding, leading a government for the people, and it was there for the people.
Comrades, help me welcome your future Prime Minister. Help me welcome your leader, Mark Jefferson Golding.
The issue of dual citizenship has been a topical issue in Jamaica for quite some time, And prominent attorney-at-law Hugh Wildman says the public must be aware that the Constitution of Jamaica is against the pledging of allegiance to a foreign state or power for those who want to be parliamentarians or senators. Wildman, who is an expert on the Constitution, told the Gleaner on Tuesday, "I think it is my duty to explain to the public how Sections 39 and 40 of the Jamaican Constitution are to be interpreted." He pointed out that Section 39 is the qualification section for one to be eligible to be elected to the lower house or to become a senator. The section stipulates that one is eligible to be elected to the House of Representatives or nominated to the Senate, which is the upper house, if one is a Commonwealth citizen and living in the country for 12 months before the election or nomination. In short, the Jamaican Constitution does not recognize Jamaican citizenship as the basis for election or nomination to the Parliament, he explained. Asked what the importance of that was, Wildman said it meant that if you were born in any Commonwealth country and came to Jamaica and lived in the country for at least 12 months prior to nomination, you are eligible to be elected or nominated to Parliament because you are a Commonwealth citizen. However, if you are born in Jamaica and go to another Commonwealth country and take out Canadian or British citizenship and come back to Jamaica, and you want to be elected to the lower house or nominated to the Senate, you have to renounce that Canadian or British citizenship because you would have been disqualified under Section 40 of the Constitution. The reason being you would have pledged allegiance by your own act to a foreign state even though that foreign state is a Commonwealth country. Similarly, if you were given citizenship at birth in a Commonwealth country and when you become an adult you renew the passport, then if you return to Jamaica and you want to enter Parliament, you will have to give up that passport that was renewed. The difference between Commonwealth countries and the United States or any other non-Commonwealth countries is that if you are born in any of those countries, you will not be able to run for the Parliament of Jamaica unless you give up that citizenship and acquire a Commonwealth passport such as a Jamaican passport because Jamaica is a Commonwealth country and you must live in the country for at least 12 months. This is how Sections 39 and 40 are to be interpreted, Wildman added. Commenting further on the issue, Wildman said, "The key thing is that the Constitution is against pledging of allegiance to another sovereign state by your own act and not by your parents'. And it does not matter whether the state is a Commonwealth country or not because although it is a Commonwealth country, it is still a sovereign state which has its own constitution," he emphasized. What seems to have caused the confusion, says Wildman, is that people are of the view that if you go and pledge allegiance to a Commonwealth country and come back to Jamaica to run for the Parliament, you are not disqualified. Wildman reiterates that you are disqualified because you would have pledged allegiance to a foreign power by your own act and the Constitution of Jamaica prohibits that. Section 39 of the Constitution states that subject to the provisions of Section 40 of this Constitution, any person, who at the date of his appointment or nomination for election A. is a Commonwealth citizen of the age of 21 years or upwards, and B. has been ordinarily resident in Jamaica for immediately preceding 12 months shall be qualified to be appointed as a senator or elected as a member of the House of Representatives and no other person shall be so qualified. Section 40(2) states that no person shall be qualified to be appointed as a senator or elected as a member of the House of Representatives who A. is, by virtue of his own act, under any acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state.
Leader of the opposition, period, and then President of the People's National Party, Mark Golding.
That's right.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
We're going to sit and